Welcome back, man. We got another NFL preview for you today. This time we're going to the NFC North, talking about what goes on in Minnesota, man. You know it get cold up there. So
Cold like
first thing we're
Minnesota. Cold like Minnesota. My bad, I just had it done in my
yeah,
way.
that's definitely come on, but that's an auto tune song. You can't sing that in real life. So
Why we hating on y'all? They like Michigan Mobile. Get into it. I'm getting it straight. I'm getting
you're
off.
right, man. First team we got, man. We gotta go to Chicago. Gotta go to O Block. Talk about them Bears, man. They finished 8-8 last season, good enough for second in the division. And guess what? They snuck into the playoffs, all thanks to little Kyler Murray losing to the Rams without Jared Goff. So I think the Bears, they owe Kyler Murray a nice little Christmas present this year. He did what he had to do to get them in the playoffs, but didn't really matter. Of course, they lost in the wild card to New Orleans on Nickelodeon, bro. Very embarrassing. Kids could have been watching SpongeBob, but instead they had to watch the Bears get beat 21-9 without scoring a touchdown.
Just as childish is in the Nickelodeon.
Exactly. And so looking at the Bears last year, bro, like I said, they went 8-8. But you want to know their record against playoff teams?
Give it to me.
1-7. You want to guess the one playoff team they beat?
Washington, 7-19.
No.
The Pack.
The one playoff team they beat, Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, they did.
So in a way,
I was about to say, I remember that. That's crazy. This is wild.
So in a way, the Chicago Bears are your 2020 Super Bowl champions, if you think about it. But talking about the Bears across the whole season, they started out 5-1, but across those first 6 games, their combined win margin was 20 points. They won 5 games by a total of 20 points. Trubisky was benched in week 3 after struggling in the first half of against Atlanta, and that led to them switching to Nick Foles. And after starting at 5-1, they lost 6 straight before switching back to Maserati Mitch, who finished the year. And so throughout the season, that offense was very stagnant. They had poor play from both quarterbacks, Trubisky and Foles, and they failed to establish a running game until week 12. And, after week 12, the team rushed for 121, 140, 169, 199, 128, and 108 rushing yards to close the season. And they hadn't rushed for 100 yards the previous 7 weeks. So looking at this team, man, that offense struggled mightily throughout the year. And that defense also didn't live up to his big name expectations. You got guys like Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, Roquan Smith, etc. But this defense fell outside of the top 10. And they only finished with 36 sacks and 18 turnovers, which was 7th worst in the NFL, while the offense turned the ball over 20 times.
Yes.
So looking at this Bears team, how y'all feel about them coming into 2021?
I would agree with you in terms of, kind of what Matt Van said, that the name brand guys kind of slumping a little bit. And we've been tracking, the slow decline of Khalil Mack's play over the past couple of seasons. Roquan Smith, guys like that. No, Roquan Smith actually showed out, but Akeem Hicks, older, established guys in the league that they really didn't live up to expectations, last year. So even Eddie Jackson didn't have the best coverage season last year. So I would kind of expect them to take a little bit of step forward in terms of regaining some of that production, regain some of that midway magic that they had, that led them to the playoffs last year. I think a lot of that has to do with Justin Fields. I think that regardless of how you feel about Mitchell Trubisky, obviously you're a fan of him, Nick, giving a nice little cute nickname and all that. I don't think it's an argument to whenever Justin Fields takes the field over Andy Dalton, which I hopefully for Matt Nagy's sake will be sooner rather than later. It'll be an instant upgrade in terms of down the field threat, being able to handle things, be able to do things outside of the pocket, and just in general bringing another dynamic to that offense. Because the longer your offense stays on the field, the less your defense is on the field. So you got older guys, like I said, like a Hicks, like a Khalil Mack, but also you got young gunners like a Roquan Smith, or Eddie Jackson, even a Baleo Nix, guys in the trenches to really make things difficult for opposing quarterbacks and running backs in the division. So I think that honestly, it was a step back last year. A lot of things were difficult because of COVID last year, but let's not forget how just go back with me during that childish Nickelodeon game. We see the memes, we saw all the time, all the viral happenings with Javon Williams dropping that touchdown pass. I just think that one particular play would have changed and kind of made the ceiling and the season of the Chicago Bears look a lot different. Because like you said, didn't have a touchdown in that game the rest of the way. That automatically would have put them within 4 points. And I think Mitsubishi, whatever you call him, I think he could have cut together a touchdown or something like that, and really would have had a chance to beat New Orleans. And if you beat New Orleans in that wild card game, I think that your season looks a lot different than what we're talking about right now. So I expect a bounce back year for that defense. I think whenever Matt Nagy comes to his senses and replaces Andy Dalton with Justin Fields, that they'll be on the right trajectory and return some of that 2018 12-4 team that I think they can get back to.
Yeah. When I think the Bears, I think Khalil Mack, one of the faces of the league. He's actually still the best edge defender in the league. I know stats are down, but that's because the attention is on him. He graded out higher than every other pass rusher, edge rusher in the league. TJ Watt, JJ Watt, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. He was better than all of them. So, if you're still going to have 2-3 people block you, it's like the Aaron Donald effect. So their defense is still one of the best in the league. But there are questions at quarterback. They lost Kyle Fuller. Now they have second-year player Jalen Johnson out of Louisville. He's going to be cornerback 1. I think he'll be fine. Then you got Desmond Trufant. He's been injured 2 straight years. He's going to be your CB2. Like, can he handle that workload? I don't know. Eddie Jackson, he's one of the best gamblers in the league, bro. You got to love what he does, but he had a down year last season. So there are a few questions, but with the Bears, I think they have a lot of name brand guys. Now that offense, they had the receivers. Andy Dalton, can he still go? Can he still do it? This offense is about as good as it's gonna get with. He had it with the Cowboys. Now the Bears, can he do it with the Bears? I don't think so. I do think Justin Fields has a higher ceiling. If it was me, I'm starting Justin Fields game 1. Andy Dalton, I'm sorry for lying to you, saying you're gonna be the starter, but we brought Justin Fields in for a reason. I think he's the chosen one to get Chicago to where they need to be.
I'm talking about that Chicago offense. You trade up in the second round and get Tevin Jenkins, again, somebody that a lot of draft analysts were high on. I thought he would be a first-round pick. You got Cody Whitehair inside. There are pieces of that offensive line to continue that production in the running game. David Montgomery having over 1,000 yards. Tyreek Cohen coming in and being that change the pace back after missing most of last year. I'm not too high on it, and I would be, especially that right tackle position, somewhere where Tevin Jenkins could have been with Charles Leonard on the left side, but with Charles Leonard leaving, there's some questions. But I think that the pieces are in place. Obviously they did enough last year to get a sizable push in the run game, and the key to that offense, they have suitable outside threats. Graham, Allen Robinson, Mooney. How long can that offensive line hold up in the pass game and the run game?
Yeah. And 2 big things, man. Talking about that defense that fell off, I think that's the offense's fault that the defense didn't live up to expectations. You got to realize how many times and how often and how long that defense was on the field, bro. Where offense is consistently going 3 and out, like it was in that Week 3 game versus Atlanta, and your defense has to keep coming back on the field and back on the field and back on the field, of course it's going to wear out and give up some opportunities. And like Van said, Khalil Mack is still a dude in this league, bro. Over 16 games, he racked up 50 tackles, 11 TFLs, 13 quarterback hits, and 9 sacks. That's not a bad stat line from an edge rusher anywhere in the league, bro. That's a very solid stat line. The only reason we say Khalil Mack fell off is because he's not challenging Aaron Donald for that DPOY award every year like we're used to. But he's still one of the premier edge defenders in this league. And of course, like I said, the defense as a whole is falling off because they're on the field so much. But I think if Chicago can find a way to establish that running game, especially behind David Montgomery, who ran for over 1,000 yards last year, and we saw that running game pick up steam towards the end of the year, like I said earlier. I think if they can find a way to establish that running game, that's going to make it easier for the quarterback, whoever it is, to find success with that Bears offense. The pieces are in place. The Bears just need to go out and execute. And Matt Nagy is a guy that's going to get an offense to execute. You look at what he did with the Chiefs before he came to Chicago. I have faith in Matt Nagy, and I have some faith in this offense. So I think it's possible that the Bears turn in a successful year this year.
You have faith in Andy Dalton?
I think Andy Dalton is a premier game manager, bro.
How much better is he
premier
than
game.
Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I'd take Ryan Fitzpatrick before Andy Dalton, but I think if you put Andy Dalton in a situation to where he doesn't have to go out and win a game, that's the situation he was in Dallas. You need Andy Dalton to be a 300-plus yard passer a game. That's not Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton can come into Chicago and win some games because he got a defense to rely on, and hopefully he'll have a running game to rely on. The problem for Chicago last year was the field was shrunk.
Yes.
They didn't have a deep passing threat. They had one, but they couldn't stretch the field vertically because of the quarterback situation and the O-line situation. But with guys like Robinson and Mooney, hopefully those stretch plays can come to fruition with Andy Dalton or whoever's at quarterback. You think about it, bro, you establish the run game, you set up some play action opportunities. This offense, I'm not going to say it's going to be dangerous, but it can be competent and pick up first downs. If this is an offense that can pick up 2 to 3 first downs a drive, this will be a good Bears team. As long as they continue to flip field position and do their share on the team, I think they'll be a good team.
Whatever the outcome is, stop wasting Allen Robinson's prime. One of the premier receivers in our league, over 100 catches, over 1,000 yards. I love to see him that pairing with him and Justin Fields' arms and see what they can do. You know, I'm tired of the big and duck guys, tired of the guys that can't consistently stretch the field, Mitsubishi mission, whatever you call them. I need a guy that can stretch the field opposite Mooney, opposite Robinson, and get him the recognition that he deserves and get him to the playoffs and get him a deep run, and so he can get that proper platform as an all-pro receiver.
Agree with that, man. Because speaking from a receiver standpoint, he's one of the best in the league, bro. He had 1,250 yards last year. He's just a guy that can attack a defense at every level of the field. Talking about short routes, intermediate routes, and even taking the top off. That's the guy he is. And that's the guy he's been since he's been in the league. I remember that year in Jacksonville, 2016, him and Allen Hurns went for 1,000 yards, bro. This is a legit guy. And he wanted to get out of Chicago, but they franchise tagged him. So hopefully he can put up some numbers this year, whether he stays in Chicago or not. Hopefully Justin Fields is enough to entice him to stay for years to come.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I want to see what he can do with Justin Fields. I don't think that Andy Dalton is confusing that Matt Nagy was so eager to jump out on the Andy Dalton and commit to him as the week 1 starter. And with somebody that you invested a first round pick in, and somebody that you're gonna have is gonna be the face of your franchise for the next 3 to 5 years, regardless of whether you like it or not. So that's kind of a very confusing decision. I want to see how long the Andy Dalton lasts. Now, can he come in as does Justin Fields have to start week 1? Obviously not. Will he have to start week 8? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, Andy Dalton was a starting quarterback at this league at one point. They had some success with Cincinnati. And I think that he can, kind of ease his way into, he can allow Justin Fields to ease his way onto the field kind of in a similar way that, in San Francisco with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. But for Nagy to come out and say that he's going to be the week 1 guy and that they're essentially committed to Andy Dalton, I hate it for Allen Robinson more than anybody else because I feel like his prime has been a little bit wasted, and for him to have another middling quarterback kind of disappointing.
But I will say this: how do you guys feel about drafting a quarterback, letting him sit for a year? That's what happened with Patrick Mahomes, and we saw the way he came out his sophomore year and dominated the league. Guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, all these guys have to wait their turn, and they still turned into very elite quarterbacks. So how do y'all feel about that, man?
I mean, yes, I think that you jumping a guy off week 1 when it's not necessary. I like it. Like you said, you just named countless examples of guys that came out in their sophomore years and shine. But I don't think that any of the quarterbacks. I don't think that those are situations where the quarterbacks in front of them were necessarily worse than them. And this kind of the situation I feel with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. He was a stopgap solution. The last time we really seen him have more success was years ago in Cincinnati, and I don't know based on the tape even last year how you're going to convince me that Justin Fields isn't better than Andy Dalton right now in terms of things that he can do physically, things he can stretching the ball downfield, making plays outside of the pocket, but even in the pocket, just accuracy and then ball placement. So I'm a fan of not benching, but sitting down rookie quarterbacks year 1, but only if the guy in front of them is a guy that they can actually learn from and get experience from. And I just don't think that'll be the case with Andy Dalton in Chicago this year.
Yeah, bro. Just in terms of benching quarterbacks, bro, I don't see the point of it. It's just like you could have had him the season before. Why not use him? I understand having a learning curve, but it's just like look at the quarterbacks that started week one and now they're still really good now. Think about Peyton Manning. He went through the learning curve on the field. His first season, it wasn't that great. Still a Hall of Famer. I feel as if he's the best guy for the team. He's a hard worker. So why not go ahead and start him?
So assuming Andy Dalton is the week one starter, when do you see Justin Fields superseding them and taking the starting role?
Let Andy Dalton get to 0-3 start. I think by week 4, but especially with Matt Nagy, this being his seat not being able to get any hotter than it is right now. Week 4, I think he'll quickly relocate and come to his senses and put in the more dynamic guy.
I think it's going to be around a time where they realize they're out of playoff contention. It's going to be later in the season, probably like week 13, 14, maybe 15, 16, because what is it, 18 weeks now? So I'm going to say week 15, last 3 games of the season.
Yeah, and to a point you brought up, Josh, do you really think Nagy is on the hot seat right now? I mean, he's made the playoffs in 2 of the last 3 seasons. So,
I mean, it's kind of confusing when you have a former OC and a guy that kind of prides himself on his offensive ability and play calling thing. First of all, last year, give up the play caller responsibilities and then having a subpar offense since he's been in Chicago. He's personally, I feel like he's still living off the success of that 12-4 season in 2018. But yeah, for you be an offensive-minded guy, offensive-minded coach, and have a struggling offense, yes, I know you made the playoffs the last couple of years, but that's all the strength of your defense. So for you to come in and have a skill set and not being able to succeed in that skill set, I think your seat is definitely high.
That's fair, man. That's fair. And so now we're going to move on to a team in Detroit who just got rid of their coach, Matt Patricia, and they're looking to bounce back and build behind new head coach, Dan Campbell, who, just for talking sakes, was ranked as the 2nd worst head coach in the NFL by CBS. But
he wants to bite off. His intro press conference was this stuff of legends. He talking about taking bullets, biting off kneecaps. Typical frat boy. Back
high energy.
Things like that. But keep going, Nick.
Probably drinks about like 3 Monster Energies a day. Probably a bang guy. You know what I'm saying?
That's 3 Monsters. That's probably him by 12. You saw the conference. You saw that man's face. He was spitting all the reporters everywhere. You know how white people get when they get all excited, start to turn red. I was like, I don't know if he's a head coach or MMA superstar. So, second worst, I'm going to say something to get us canceled again. I would struggle to find a guy that seems to be less fitted to be an NFL head coach than Matt Campbell. But we'll see. I've been proven wrong before on this show. We will see.
We'll see. Because one thing Matt Campbell does,
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell, one thing he does, he brings a lot of energy. Hopefully he brings a new culture to that Detroit team that players who played under Matt Patricia said was toxic. So looking at the Lions last season, they went 5-11, lost 5 of their last 7 games, and lost 4 straight to end the season. So Stafford, he started off hot, 17 tutties in his first 9 games, only 9 tutties over his last 7. This was a Lions team that was the 3rd worst team in rushing, looking at 93 yards per game. But the biggest failure of Detroit, and it's been this way for Matt Patricia's whole tenure, the defense, bro. This is a bad defense. Patricia prided himself on defense. You look at all the great defenses he coordinated in New England, but he just couldn't get that to work in Detroit. This team was last in points allowed, allowing 32 points per game, last in yards allowed, allowing 420 yards per game. They had the 30th worst pass defense, allowing 284 passing yards a game, 28th worst rush defense, allowing about 135 yards per game, and they only had 24 sacks and only 16 turnovers. And one guy had 10 sacks by himself, and Romeo Okwara. So, oh my God, this is a bad team. They drafted Jeff Okudah last year to help with the pass defense. He made it worse than better. He gave up 41 completions, and quarterbacks completed 77% of their passes when targeting him. So, of course, Matt Patricia got fired after that embarrassing Thanksgiving loss, and Bob Quinn also went out with him. And since then, they traded Matt Stafford to LA for Jared Goff, and they're coming into this season with Jared Goff as their new quarterback, and they've added some more talent around them. Looking at how they revitalized the O line, and they lost their top two receivers from last year, and Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones Jr. So, what do you guys think about this Lions team coming into 2021?
Sewer dwellers. I think they really have like you said, losing their losing their best two receivers, downgrading quarterback. Kuda coming in and struggling. Having expectations. Roma Akura might be the best player on this team, which a lot of people thought he was gonna leave in free agency. I would be again. I wouldn't be surprised if they're the worst team in the NFL. The Lions are no strangers to being sewer dwellers and have been in competition for the number 1 overall pick. And the best receiving threat they got right now on the offensive side of the ball is T.J. Hopkinson. Which a lot of people are excited about. I'm not so high on. Seems to be Iowa tight ends, guys that have a little our dynamic, can do a little bit of inline blocking. Personally, if that's your best receiving threat, it sounds like you're on a pace for a 3-2 win season. So yeah, not a lot of hope to talk about for Detroit. You made it sound really good, Nick. But 1 or 2 wins, that should be the expectation, and another rebuild for them. Constant rebuild. Goff is when you had to trade away 2 first-round picks to get a starting quarterback back, kind of tells you the level of expectation that at least LA have for him. So really bleak in Detroit. They just got Kate Cunningham. That should probably be their biggest focus for season so far.
I think they're actually doing a great job of building a team through the offensive line. I know it sounds crazy, but they're slowly putting it together, bro. So you got Taylor Decker at left tackle, former Tennessee tight end. At center, you got Frank Ragnow. He graded out real well last season. Right tackle just drafted Panay Sewell. So that's 3 spots sold up. All you gotta do is get the guard positions, and then I think you'll see a lot from this upcoming season. What you saw from the Rams with a lot of play action with Jared Goff, he was the most successful. You got DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, he was the backup in Green Bay last season. DeAndre Swift, he was a starter for the Lions this past season. Bold prediction, bro. You ready for this hot take? They will combine for over 2,000 yards on the season.
Who?
Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift.
Ooh. More than both.
I just feel like Goff's stats will improve from last season because of receivers. They'll gain the separation they need from the play action when you have 2 running backs that can rotate like that and keep you fresh. I do think they're like a few years away from actually being noteworthy of maybe Super Bowl, maybe even playoff contender. But I like the direction that they're going in. Of course, that defense is trash, but I see the vision.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to agree with you here, Vance. You look at the way the Lions have rebuilt, especially that offensive line with the names you mentioned, and you combine that with a guy Josh disrespected and T.J. Hopkinson, tight end out of Iowa, made the Pro Bowl last year. And let me just throw this in, bro. He was drafted 8th overall for a reason. First year Pro Bowler last year, 67 receptions, 723 yards, and 6 tutties, bro. Put some respect on my man's name, bro. So looking at the offense right now that features T.J. Hopkinson, DeAndre Swift, and then you bring in receivers Tyrell Williams from Oakland. You also bring in Khalif Raymond from Tennessee, Brashad Perriman, who had a good year with the Jets last year. And you draft Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think this offense, I think they have the talent to be very good. And I think you can look and see how this talent is going to develop by looking at their offensive coordinator, who is none other than Anthony Lynn, the former Chargers head coach. Now, Lynn only has 1 year of experience as offensive coordinator, and that was with the Bills in 2016. And in 2016, the Bills had the best rushing offense in the NFL, rushing for 164 yards per game and 5.3 yards per attempt, headed by LaShawn McCoy. And then you flip the page, go to his tenure with the Chargers, and the Chargers never had a season where they were outside of the top 10 in passing offenses in the NFL. So looking at Anthony Lynn-led offense, I think that he can lead this team to a lot of success as the OC. Like Vance mentioned with Ragnow, Decker, and Jonah Jackson, they can really run the ball with DeAndre Swift. And Jamal Williams is an amazing change of pace, third down back, and we saw that when he was spelling Aaron Jones in Green Bay. And then you throw in Jared Goff, Yes, he's limited as a quarterback. But when you have a mind like Anthony Lynn and a tight end like TJ Hawkinson, anything is possible, bro. You look at what Hunter Henry did with the Chargers, and in 2016, Charles Clay put up 522 yards and 4 tutties with the Bills. And that was with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback when they had the 30th best passing offense. So I think you can expect a lot from this Detroit offense. And I think you can expect a lot from Jared Goff because he knows, like we all know, this is a make it or break it year for Jared Goff. There's no money left on his deal after this season. So if some way Detroit finds itself in the top 5 in draft picks next year, you can consider Jared Goff replaced. So Jared Goff knows he has to come out and perform this year, and I think that's what he's going to do. And I think this Detroit offense is going to be better than a lot of people expect.
You made some good points, Nick. Talked about Anthony Lynn taking over the OC job, kind of the guy that really spearheaded the Justin Herbert hype train. And like you said, kind of revitalized that Bills pass rushing attack. But I'm not as high on TJ Hawkinson as you are. Kind of the McVay downfield play action stuff is predicated on having downfield threats. I don't know how much. I mean, TJ Hawkinson seems more of a security blanket versus a guy that's gonna, you'll be able to split in the slot, attack the seam on the provided vertical threat. And then again, Jared Goff, 29 interceptions in the past 2 years. How will he be able to protect the ball? He has a great offensive line, but again, he had a pretty good offensive line in LA too, with a massive upgrades at a receiver with a Kupp and Robert Woods. So y'all seem way more optimistic on for the Lions and their host than I do. I think that Anthony Lynn will come in, make something shake, and we'll see a slight improvement just because I think that again supporting black men, but also like you said, the progress that he had for Justin Herbert and the system he had in place with him lets him know that he can work with, he's able to jumpstart, quarterbacks that aren't, the most talented in that situation. But again, I would just struggle to see, the receiver threats. TJ Hawkinson can have 70 catches for 1,000 yards, but who's your number 2 guy? You lost Kenny Galladay, you lost Marvin Jones. Amon St. Brown, he was really good at USC. He is a guy that could break out for it. So, I can take a step back and say that I might have jumped the gun a little bit. I don't think that this Detroit offense will be spectacular, but with all the facts that you hit me with, Nick, I can see them being, outside of the bottom 10. I'll say that.
I'm basing Jared Goff's success on the success of the rushing attack. I'm not necessarily saying I think Jared Goff is just some world beater or anything like that. It's kind of like in the Ryan Tannehill sense of mind. I feel like the O-line in the rushing attack can hide the deficiencies from Jared Goff enough to where he can hold the ball in the pocket off play action, throw it deep to Tyrell Williams, who he's not just a great receiver, but he's a great deep threat. TJ Hawkinson, who can find the open gaps, right? I just think it's a well fit together team.
Yeah, and I think defensively, you can expect some improvements. Just after seeing Matt Patricia leave, you bring in a guy like Melvin Fonwu. You draft a guy like Melvin Fonwu from Syracuse. You bring in Quinn Dunbar from Seattle, who was a top 5 corner 2 years ago. And then, you bring in guys like Alexander Zaloni, Michael Brockers, guys in that front 7 in that box that can, kind of change the game or are better than the guys you had last year. So I see Detroit becoming a better team this year. And I think this is just the beginning of their rebuild as they try to become a competitive team again.
Time, and then probably run out. But, yeah. I mean, rebuild sounds good, kind of the situation they've been in for a while. I just don't see how they progress in this rebuild with having an obvious downgrade at quarterback. So that's my biggest question. We talked about how the 2 of the most important positions is quarterback and O-line. They have a much better improved O-line, but I think we've seen Jared Goff already, kind of disappoint in a far better situation. So I hate to see what he looks like with guys that are not as talented as he had in LA with, Everett, Coop, Woods. We'll see. Make something shake with TJ Hawkinson. Making me a believer, Jared Goff. How about that?
He's still a Super Bowl quarterback, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Trent Dilfer is too.
So up next, man, we got the Cheeseheads, the Green Bay Packers, man. They won the division last year at 13-3. They were the best team in the NFC at the end of the regular season. However, they lost in the championship game for the 2nd straight year, this time to the Bucs, 31-26. In this game, Aaron Rodgers had no Bakhtiari, and Kevin King was, let's just say you could have put some some butter and some jelly on him and called him toast because he gave up 5 receptions for 66 yards and 2 tutties in coverage, bro.
A very crucial end of the half touchdown.
To Scotty Miller. Yeah.
Come on now.
And so last year, Rodgers had an MVP season. Green Bay was 5th in total offense in terms of yards. They had the best scoring offense, putting up 31 points per game. And they had a top 10 passing and rushing offense. Defense was much improved. They were 8th in total yards allowed and 7th in pass defense. However, the defense still struggled to create pressure throughout the year. For example, they only had 5 pressures in the NFC Championship game. Now, they lost a little bit this offseason, losing Jamal Williams, who's the key third down back for them, losing their center Corey Linsley, and their offensive tackle Rick Wagner. Looking forwards towards 2021, how you guys feel about the Packers?
I mean, for the Packers, obviously, I hit my little jig because this is the last dance for Aaron Rodgers, Devonte Adams, and honestly, this is not even a divisional comparison. They need to be looking towards a conference comparison, and Super Bowl or bust. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the I say top 3 quarterbacks of our generation, and for him to have last his whole career in Green Bay and to get only 1 Super Bowl, expectations are different for guys at that level. So especially with the back and forth between him and the front office this year, Devonte Adams and the pick that upset him, Jordan Love, and just the success that they've had, not exactly reaching the level they wanted to. I think this is not a question. This year is critical for them. They've done a pretty good job surrounding getting some pieces for him, Amari Rodgers, things like that, getting another bruiser in the draft. And have they done enough? We'll see. I don't really like the step back that Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith took on the pass rush. And like you said, Nick, kind of showed up in the worst time. We're only getting 5 pressures in the NFC Championship game. So, they will need to. Preston Smith he'll have to regain that 2019 form. Him and Zadarius Smith, and Rashawn Gary, another young pass rusher, they'll have to step up, kind of regain some of that swag in the defense to take some of that pressure off the Green Bay offense.
We think the Packers, the only thing you can think of is run it back. NFC Championship, they're literally one decision away from being in the Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur, scare money don't make no money. So, but you can't look back. It would be nice for Aaron Rodgers to get a second star receiver, but he can make his receivers that he has now look like stars himself. Then his backfield partner, you got Aaron Jones, one of the most underrated backs in the league. And then the defense did a great job last season, bro. They did a great job of keeping up with the effort that the offense has had for the past basically 10 years since Aaron Rodgers has been there. They have no true weak spot, so there's no excuses. Get it done. I feel like they run it. They really just want to run it back with Tampa Bay. But here's the thing: you can't have no hangover, bro. Would the rest of the Packer players be ready to go? And can they get to the playoffs, which I think they will be able to do? And once they get to the playoffs, can they get over that hump that they couldn't last year against Tampa Bay?
Yeah. So talking about that hump, bro, who does the pressure fall on the most for Green Bay to get over that hump and actually go from NFC Championship game to the Super Bowl?
I would say any receiving threat not named Devonte Adams. You add on Amari Rodgers, you bring back a 8-year vet in Randall Cobb. You got Robert Tonyan guys with 11 touchdowns last year. We know what Devonte Adams is going to bring. He's going to, which is crazy because arguably outside of DeAndre Hopkins, the best receiver in the game, you're going to get over 1,100 yards. The emphasis is going to fall on who outside of Devonte Adams can, attract, can make something shake, can attract some attention from different DCs, and ultimately be that second threat that he has been missing so much. Cobb, he's back. He's a little bit older, but somebody that, is comfortable in the system. I said Amari Rodgers, a third rounder, somebody that was really dynamic in college, somebody that can operate in the slot and in the slot and in the boundary that can make some plays. And then, even a guy like Aaron Jones that can do some stuff in the backfield, but also in the receiving game as well. That will be the emphasis. Well, outside of Devonte Adams can keep these DCs up at night and can be a consistent threat week in, week out. So they're not, when you're not having to have a corner and a safety shadow of Devonte Adams the whole game and feel comfortable about it because you have somebody opposite him that can go off for 100 yards.
There's only one player on the Green Bay Packers right now that has a Super Bowl ring, and that's Aaron Rodgers. So I feel like the pressure's on everybody else. You know what you're going to get out of them, bro. Can those other guys, can they reach that next level, which they did last season? So I instead of everybody else, I'm just going to say it's Matt LaFleur, bro. You can't make a decision like that. You got to trust your players. No, if you're playing Madden, nobody in their right mind is not going for the on fourth down. Like you got to convert right there. So I feel like the pressure's on everybody but Aaron Rodgers. He has the Super Bowl ring. Nobody's opinion is going to change about him if he doesn't win another one. No matter what, he's a top 5 all-time quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna defer from y'all a little bit, and I'm gonna say the pressure's on that defense, bro. You look at what Aaron Rodgers has done year in and year out, bro. You put up 26 points in a game. Typically, that's enough to win you a game. It should be enough. Last year with the 49ers, same story. They couldn't stop the run last year with the 49ers, though, as Raheem Mostert went off. I think the pressure really just falls on that defense, bro. You look at who let him down this past season with Kevin King. That was one, like I said, he was toast, bro. He was toast. You give up 2 tutties in coverage. You can't do that, especially in crucial moments, like right before halftime. You got to know what's coming. But looking at what the Packers did, bro, they drafted Eric Stokes from Georgia. I think he can instantly come in and be that corner 2 spot next to Jair Alexander, who's one of the best in the game. And then, you try to revamp that linebacker core by bringing Devondre Campbell in, trying to add some more pass rush to that team, because I think that's where that defense needs the most help, pass rushing, and at that corner number 2, corner number 3 spot. So I think if Green Bay can come in to this year, revitalize that pass rush, revitalize that coverage, I think they can get over the hump, because the offense is going to do what it needs to do. Like I said, this was the best scoring offense in the league last year. The defense just has to do its part.
I feel that. Just circling back to my first point, you need the Smith brothers, the Darius Smith, Preston Smith, to regain that 2019 form, that Pro Bowl form that they had. Preston Smith had 2019, 12.5 sacks, and take a massive step back. And also came back with a massive pay cut to 4.5. That's not going to get it done as somebody that you rely on as constant edge rush pressure. You have Kenny Clark inside, but even outside of Kenny Clark, what interior? Like you said, referring to Raheem Mostert, how he went crazy on them last year or the year before. What other run stuff do you have inside to hold up and make the 3rd and 7, make it 3rd down difficult for opposing teams? So I definitely think that the defense was important. It is important, and it will be a major factor in how far this success goes. But personally, I'm kind of expecting for them to have a bounce back. Devondre Campbell, it was an underrated guy in Atlanta, kind of brings some veteran leadership and experience to that linebacker room. And then I think Kevin King is had one bad game, but was solid most of the year. So if he can kind of avoid some of the big mistakes that he had, like in the NFC Conference Championship game, Eric Stokes comes in, either takes off that number 2 spot, that CB2 spot, or he moves into the slot. I think that the defense, even last year, like you said, without a few crucial mistakes, they were in position to get back to the Super Bowl. So honestly, I think that the defense, even with the step backs that they had with the projected bounce back years, guys like Rashawn Gary having projected to have breakout years, I think the emphasis has on who outside of Devonte Adams can produce consistent offense week in and week out.
And so, kind of talking about that offense with Devonte Adams, as you mentioned, who else can step up? Right now, I think Green Bay has one of the better trios of offensive weapons in the league. Looking at Rodgers, looking at Aaron Jones, looking at Devonte Adams.
Look, man, we're gonna go on and we're gonna move on to the last team in the division, the Minnesota Vikings, man. It seems like every year they need a miracle. That miracle didn't come through last year. They finished 7-9 and 3rd in the division. Not only did they finish 7-9, but they started 1-5. But they had a number of bright spots on that team. Looking at rookie receiver Justin Jefferson, who came in and broke Randy Moss's rookie receiving record. Dalvin Cook had a great bounce back year, rushing for over 1,500 yards. However, it seems like it's been a consistent theme throughout this episode. In the words of head coach Mike Zimmer, this is a bad defense. Worst one I ever had. Now, looking at this defense, bro, this was the first time since 2014 that a Zimmer coach team finished outside the top 10 in points per game. Last season, they were 29th in points allowed per game, allowing 29.7 points. They had the 25th worst pass defense, allowing 258 yards per game. And they had the 27th worst rush defense, allowing 134 yards per game. And they finished 28th in sacks, only creating 23. Now this defense faced the uphill battle this year as they were forced to start 2 rookie cornerbacks in Cam Dantzler and Jeff Gladney, who was released today, actually. And they also traded Yannick Ngakoue at the trade deadline, who had 5 sacks while he was with the Vikings.
Confusing decision to say the least. I'll say that.
Yeah. And then the defense was hit hard with injuries to key players such as Daniil Hunter, Anthony Barr, nickel Mike Hughes, and Eric Kendricks. So looking at this team, coming into the offseason, they bring in Pat Pete to try to shore up that secondary, in addition to Mackenzie Alexander and Bashad Breeland and Xavier Woods. And they also bring in some more weapons on offense, as it seems like Minnesota has forever been trying to find that number 3 receiver. So they bring in D.D. Westbrook, and in the drafts, they drafted Kellen Mond. So I want to start out this conversation by talking. How much faith do you guys have in Kirk Cousins this season?
Definitely not the direction I thought you was going to take that. I mean, none right now because, he's down with COVID. That's the vaccination. Mike Zimmer expressed some disappointment in the fact that the situation got to where it was at with them having one quarterback in the quarterback room because of the vaccination rates. So I mean, he is a typical, like I said, empty stats guy. He's great in regular season game, great in even great in the non-nationally televised game. But it's it is widely known how his struggles have been on nationally televised games and in the playoffs. So again, I don't have that much confidence in Kirk Cousins. But if you want to take a little wider angle and talk about Mike Zimmer and the actual defense, I have a lot of confidence in them. You lose your 3 best front 7 players, Kendricks, Anthony Barr, and Daniel Hunter to injury. Those guys, those are guys that are going to come back and make instant impact. Things like you invested in the O-line to keep Kirk Cousins upright. He's not a mobile guy whatsoever. But, even with Devin Cook's bounce back season and drafting a tackle in the first round, there's more investment in that O-line to make things, better for them, up front. And to give Kirk Cousins time to make things happen downfield. So Kirk Cousins, I don't have that much confidence in. But the defense and the pieces around Kirk Cousins, I have supreme confidence in.
I see a lot of things in the Vikings that I see in the Lions, but I just think the Vikings have a slightly better defense. Like, can the O-line give Kirk Cousins time to make these plays? Get his stars the ball. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. I believe they're a great run blocking team. You saw that with Dalvin Cook, who was the second leading rusher in the NFL last season. So, but can they pass block? Can they pass protect? You got 3 great teams in the front 7 in their own division with the Packers, the Lions, and the Bears. So with the Vikings, another thing is how will the defense come back? Like you said, Daniel Hunter, Anthony Barr, Michael Pierce, they're all coming off of injury. How will they shake back? Then you got Pat Peterson, bro. Is he washed? I don't know, but I do believe that the defensive scheme that they have in play will be able to mask a lot of the deficiencies that Pat Peterson has now. Minnesota, like we said, they was a top 10 offense last season. There was 5th in rushing, 14th in passing. I don't think they're a bad team, but their schedule is pretty hard. Just looking at their schedule, it's one of the hard. I think it might be the hardest schedule in the league.
I would compare this Minnesota team to a similar, a team makeup in terms of Washington. Great pieces surround them. I would say much more dynamic options at receiving and Thielen and Justin Jefferson. And then, but again, the crucial crux and the worst places to have concerns is offensive line and quarterback. Like with Washington, they've invested, a first or second round pick in the last 4 drafts in the offensive line. So they're conscious and intentional about what they need to improve on. But again, can Kirk Cousins be the guy that can lead you to a Super Bowl, a championship, a Super Bowl win, a deep playoff run? I don't really see it for him. He's somebody that paid like a top tier quarterback, but outside of the regular season hasn't really performed like it. So
Kirk Cousins is a star, bro. Top 10.
All right. So let me do something for y'all real quick, bro. Let me give y'all a quick versus. And this is quarterbacks last season in the NFL. Player A completed 67.6% of his passes, 4,265 yards, 35 tutties, 13 picks, 8.3 yards per attempt for 105 passer rating. Player B completed 68.8% of his passes for 4,212 yards, 40 tutties, 13 picks, 7.5 yards per attempt, and 105 QB rating. So after hearing those numbers, what quarterback would you rather take? Quarterback A or quarterback B?
Yeah, bro. You gotta go with B. Same passer rating, more touchdowns.
Yeah. A little bit higher completion percentage. I mean, just based off those raw numbers, I'll go with B. But I love to hear who the players are in the context surrounding them.
But I brought this up because player A was Kirk Cousins. Player B was Russell Wilson, who many were considering an MVP candidate for the first half of the season. So is Kirk Cousins really that far off?
No, he's top 10, bro.
Okay.
He's an above average stopgap. I would say.
They say special players make special plays on special days. I think Kirk Cousins is one of those players, bro.
No, I wouldn't. When the lights are down, gamer. Okay. Again, he's had Thielen. He's had one of the best supporting casts in the NFL for the past 3 years. Where's it gotten? It took one Stephon Diggs Minnesota Miracle for them to have a legitimate playoff run.
It was Case Keenum.
Oh, see, look at me, sounding stupid and not even having the right quarterback. So again, Kirk Cousins.
He beat the Saints 2 years ago when he threw the face of Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, that was a good moment. But again, I'm whatever stats you throw at me, whatever advanced analytics, you're not going to convince me that Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. Even if the stats blatantly say they do, because when they come into their playoff game or week 17 or week 18 situation, I'm not putting my trust in that guy. I'm
proof's in the pudding, bro. The last time the Washington football team was good, who was the quarterback? Or even decent before last season, who was the quarterback?
Kirky.
The Washington football team, probably one of the most functional teams in the league prior to a season ago. The laughing stock of the league, as a matter of fact. They're called the Washington football team for a reason. They're a joke. The last time they was good was with this quarterback, Kirk Cousins. I'm a believer. That was a top 10 offense. I know he has the weapons, but somebody got to get him the ball. Somebody had to give the weapons. Somebody had to pull the trigger. That's Kirk Cousins.
I mean, when you got the second best, we got the second highest rusher in the league. That helps a lot too. But y'all entitled to different strokes, different folks. I'm not going in on Kirk Cousins, the top 10 quarterback, or as a guy that can move the needle. Have Super Bowls been won with below average quarterback play? Yes, but for a guy that has had outstanding, like y'all said, outstanding regular season numbers and has performed like a top 10 quarterback, just to see the shocking switch that he hits in playoff games and then nationally televised games. You're not gonna buy. I'm not gonna buy it. I need to see him do it. Consistently beat an opponent that was not supposed to be to make me a Kirk Cousins believer. But
you've hated on every quarterback in his division besides Aaron Rodgers. Who do you think is the second best quarterback in the division?
Chicago. Justin Fields. I don't think that's
taking the NFL snap yet?
Yeah, I would say so. I like him over Andy Dalton. I like him over Justin Fields. I like him over Goff too. So
sheesh.
Yeah.
Boy.
I mean, if that's how you feel, bro. Let me ask y'all this, bro. Start one, bench one, cut one. Allen Robinson, Devonte Adams, Jay Jettis.
Ooh, wee.
That was good.
I'm the receiver.
You the receiver, Nick. I was about to say.
I'm starting Devonte. I'm benching Jay Jettis. Gotta cut Allen Robinson. It's that simple, bro. Devonte Adams is the best receiver in the league right now.
Okay, I give you that.
Is on his way to becoming top 5, top 10. That's a guy who's versatile slot, outside, deep threat, middle of the field, whatever you need to do. I like Allen Robinson. He just doesn't provide as much explosiveness as those two guys before him do. So that's why I'm taking Devonte and Jay Jettis.
I hate to agree with Nick, but I will agree for the exact same reasons. Devonte Adams, I won't. I 1A, 1B, depending on how you feel about DeAndre Hopkins. And then again, Justin Jefferson coming in, breaking Randy Moss's receiving record. Doing it inside, doing it outside, just having just a tad bit more juice than Allen Robinson and the ability to make things, operate exclusively at the slot, or not exclusively, but excel in the slot, excel in the boundary. And I was like, come on now, we know, gritty, one time for them folks. So that was a good one, Vance. And I hate agreeing with Nick because it's just not in my blood to do it. But keep Devontae, start Devontae, bench JJ, and then cut Allen Robinson.
Sheesh. That's pretty. If Allen Robinson was on a different team, I feel like y'all would have a different opinion. But I don't know. Y'all might not.
That's a very good point. With a different set of quarter. But in terms of just route running, being open, and just not actual threat, but just true threat. You're gonna be hard pressed to find two guys outside of in the NFL, outside of Thielen and Jay Jettis, that's gonna really punish DCs and corners like that. One of the reasons why I think they've been keeping Kirk Cousins afloat, not Jay Jettis, he came in the league, but Adam Thielen being one of the most versatile slots in the NFL, I would say has been a huge contribution to Kirk Cousins' success.
Yeah, I agree with that, bro. But I think Jay Jettis will be even more responsible, bro. He had 1,400 yards this year. Adam Thielen was short of 1,000. So we'll see how it plays out this upcoming year in Minnesota. But let's go on and wrap this episode up, man. And how do you think this division will look at the end of the year, record-wise?
Go first, Vance.
Okay. So in fourth place, last place, believe it or not, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings, bro. The schedule is hard. It's just like looking at the schedule. It's a lot of toss-up games. I think they're going to be in a lot of one-possession games, but I got them finishing at 5-12 in fourth place. In third place, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. Like I said, I think they're going to be like, teetering in and out of, around 500, but I got them finishing 7-10. In second place, I have the Detroit Lions at 9-8. Like I said, I think they're going to have the right game plan. Dan Campbell is a player's coach. Like y'all said it yourselves, bro. He's a hype guy, bro. He's going to be a guy that the player's going to be ready to play for on Sunday. He's going to have it ready to go. And then in first place, of course, I'm going to have to go with the Green Bay Packers. I got them finishing at 12-5. I think they're actually going to be 7-5 entering their Week 13 bye. And I think they're going to finish the season out on a 5-game win streak, going into the playoffs with a lot of momentum at 12-5.
Okay. Detroit, great rap city, horrible football town. Shit your focus to Kay Cunningham, got him fourth. Don't really need to talk about it. Third, I had to go with Chicago too. I think, like Van said, a lot of smart people will get in the way. A lot of not smart people will get in the way of Justin Fields hitting the field as soon as possible. And then, week 8, week 9, week 10, if they're out of playoff contention by then, throw them into the fire. It'll be a little too late. The defense need to take a step forward. I think they will, but I don't see them having the success that they need to, and Nagy saving the job. So give me third. Minnesota, regular season darling. I see them, like you said, one of the best receiver combinations in the league. Dalvin Cook, one of the most explosive offenses. I think Kirk Cousins does a good job of handling that regular season role well enough, but then compete for a wild card in NFC. And then of course you got Green Bay first. But again, they're not really even going to be focused on being divisional champs. Their theme for this year, the last day of Instagram post with Devonte and Aaron Rodgers, it'll be Super Bowl or bust for them. So they're not even really focused on this division. They're looking directly at Tampa Bay and seeing how they can defeat them again in the conference championship.
Yeah, and so for me, I'll put the Lions last in this division. I think they just got an uphill battle, and they're just now starting their rebuild. But I think they will be hovering around that 500, a little bit below 500 record at the end of the year. At third, I got the Vikings. Just that secondary, I just don't have enough faith in it for them to win enough games to really compete for the division title. And at number 2, I think the Monsters of the Midway will come back. I think the Bears will play some more complimentary football this year. I think they'll have a better year than they did last year. And at number 1, undoubtedly, Green Bay is going to win this division. Aaron Rodgers is going to show that he's the MVP. No matter what he does, he can come out and perform. And I think Green Bay has a legitimate title shot this year. all depending on how the defense comes out. So that's how I see this NFC North playing out.
Definitely think. So in a toss-up game, if they how we expect to, Tampa Bay or Green Bay, NFC Championship game. Who we taking?
I'm putting my money on Green Bay right now.
What about you, Vance?
I'll never bet against Brady.
I think at the end of the day, they've made enough marginal improvements, and Aaron Rodgers will probably win it more than Tom Brady. So give me Green Bay too.
Where have they improved it?
Defensively, I think that they've added more than enough pieces around, Devonte Adams to, make him not the sole focus of that receiving core. And I think I'm a big Rashawn Gary guy. He's been working out, with a pass rush specialist, my guy BT Jordan. I think that if Preston Smith takes not another step, but the step forward that he needs to, Darius Smith can get healthy, and then Rashawn Gary has that breakout season that everybody's expecting, along with Devondre Campbell holding down the linebacker core. I think that they can, again. One mistake, one 6'2" dread size Kevin King mistake, and that game would have looked a lot different. So if we can avoid that, or even if there's folks out there not committing that mistake, I think Green Bay can take it. Rodgers had a lot of back and forth with the front office just because of that one game. So they don't win it more than Brady.
So there you have it, folks. From a little crystal ball into the NFC Championship as well in this episode. That boy breath just fogged up the whole camera. But anyway, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in with us yet again, bro. Make sure y'all stay tuned for the rest of our division predictions coming at you soon, bro. And with that, bro, we finna get out of here. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, follow us on the socials, do whatever you gotta do. And with that, we out of here.